This is a live situation. Some of the terrorists or suspected terrorists could still be out there waiting to strike, and perhaps that's why an advisory has been issued by the Delhi police. Joining me now on the special broadcast is Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director of India's Intelligence Bureau. Also with me is Major General Sanjay Meston. General Meston has served in counter-terror environments. And Mr. Azad, how would you read the advisory of the Delhi police saying keep at least 3 hours when you get to an airport, at least an hour plus 2 hours when you get to a railway station, and time when you get to a metro station? Does this indicate that there is still an apprehension that terrorists out there at large could still strike?
Absolutely. I mean, it means that there are advanced security drills to be made at all these venues, the public places. And in fact, Gaurav, when you were showing the cars and their traceability and how 4 cars have been traced now, the first car, you see, was used as a VBIED, I mean, vehicle-borne implosive explosive device. And you remember JM had used the same form of attack against J&K Assembly in 2001. So, and the kind of things which I've heard only on your channel that recce was done of RSS office in Lucknow or some of these areas which have busy markets. So it really looks like the plan was to create a mayhem in a metro city by using these VBIDs only, vehicle-borne. And that's why one vehicle belonged to that lady, that terrorist, and one belonged to Omar, and there are 2 more you've already located. And the other thing about this, the Delhi police circular, which has been sent, extremely important. I hope the IB also has sent a circular to all the states, because the way you are coming out with information, the linkages would touch other states too. UP, definitely.
It indeed is, and it's very alarming. We are not putting out every bit of information that we have in public domain that we get from our sources. You're absolutely right. So you have doctors from Jammu and Kashmir, from Pulwama, from Tral, from Shopian, from Srinagar, who've been taken into custody. Doctors from Lucknow who've been taken into custody. Doctors who are operating in Kanpur who've been taken into custody. Doctors who are in Faridabad, Al-Falah Hospital. And sir, General Meston, if I could bring you in for a quick moment before I get back to Mr. Azad, the fact that these people were planning it so meticulously, living in Faridabad, but traveling to Mewat, traveling to Nuh to buy ammonium nitrate, using multiple cars, going at different times, and different doctors going, then returning, then having a storehouse, a separate storage space, some 300 meters away from the main university, where some of the ammonium nitrate was stored. And there's a diary, there's an entire list with names and some codes. This is very alarming, General Meston.
Gaurav, absolutely. Firstly, it's a fantastic job being done by the NIA and the police authorities of various states, especially J&K and, of course, Delhi police and Haryana police and UP police. It's a job well done. Now, coming on to the question proper, I think these guys, highly educated doctors, they have done absolutely meticulous planning. And the fact of the matter is that going to Mewat and procuring all this ammonium nitrate, this shows, that they were intelligent. And let me tell you, Gaurav, there is solid amount of local support. Nothing can be done without local support. And the issues which immediately strike anyone's mind is, number one, who's funding so much? Buying of 4 cars, and that too expensive cars like EcoSport. Number 2 is this procurement of ammonium nitrate. That also costs money, and how they've been able to get it. Again, it has been provisioned by the locals, and probably there is a factory running in Mewat which is producing this, because if you mix ammonia and nitric acid, it can also yield that, or it is a commercially available fertilizers. That is next point. The third point is, the local support, tremendous amount of local support is there. And why I'm saying a good job being done by the NIA and all the investigative agencies is that every hour, Gaurav, so many things are being unraveled. The truth has to come out, and even the Turkey plan, right from the start point, the handler to everything, I think we are doing a good job. Each minute we are getting some new updates, and I think
which is very alarming. It's actually, Mr. Azad, it's a race against time to catch hold of this module, because Dr. Adil was taken into custody, Dr. Muzammil was taken into custody, Dr. Shaheen was taken into custody, Dr. Ansari was absconding, Dr. Umar was absconding, Dr. Umar managed to carry out the terror attack, Dr. Ansari was subsequently arrested, but we still do not know how many more doctors or paramedics or other members of this module may still be out there waiting to strike at a moment where they can cause maximum damage in our country to our people.
One of the main leads, which of course the security agencies must be looking at, is there's two Maulvis. Who are the people he has actually been
Indoctrinating.
radicalizing? How many people have attended? Because radicalization, mind you, Gaurav, takes a deep kind of indoctrination, and it takes time. So there must be people who must be more and more people who must be involved, and they certainly have to be tracked. Secondly, the other point is that after you've shown, it's horrifying. There are four vehicles being used in different manners. Maybe there are more vehicles to be used. Are there other cities like Lucknow where the RSS office was, recce? And then the other thing which is worrying me, Gaurav, is that if you see that Raisin module from Gujarat, in which the doctors were from Telangana, I mean, that would have caused even a more kind of an mayhem if that would mix with Temple Prasad. You can imagine the kind of social fallout it could have on national security. So I think there is a lot to go into with this, the linkages. And one important thing which General also mentioned, I must point that out, is that it's extremely important now to see on those encrypted messages what are the kind of directions they have so that we can look into those directions. Number two, also the kind of money, whether there is any cryptocurrency trail, because mind you, these fellows are
Very
in
important
these
point,
people
sir.
had visited.
Very, very important point you raised there. Funding. In fact, that's another story we'll be breaking just in a moment from now. The Enforcement Directorate has now been roped in. From what my sources tell me, Union Home Minister Amit Shah held a meeting, and in that meeting, the Director of Enforcement Directorate was also called in to probe the financial aspect of this entire case. Somewhere we are told that the effort is to plug the gaps. Was this Hawala money? Was this cryptocurrency? Or was it money that was coming into an NGO for welfare? And I'll tell you something more about it in just a moment. We're just waiting for some more information to filter in. But breaking news coming in, breaking news coming in. The air ticket from Srinagar to Delhi found in the house of a doctor held from Saharanpur. This is a flight ticket that's been recovered from Dr. Adil Ahmed's house in Saharanpur, which showed that he travelled from Srinagar to Delhi on the 31st of October, days before the November 10 car explosion near Red Fort that killed. Sadly, the death toll has now gone up to 13 and injured at least 20. I want to bring in our reporters who are breaking this big story, but as I do that, so there is a longer list that seems to emerge, and Mr. Azad, this list, this back and fro, to and fro from Srinagar, back and forth from Srinagar, again and again and again, that Maulvi Maulana Irfan of the Nauga Masjid has been taken into custody. Apparently, there is some information that will come out of there in just a while, because he was in touch with doctors over several years, and which would indicate that there are sleeper cells, not just in Delhi or in Haryana, in other parts of the country too.
In fact, Gaurav, one of the, that's why the point which I mentioned is that it's extremely important to ferret out all the details from him, as also from the mosque, which was visited by Dr. Umar just before the blast, where he was hanging around. It's quite possible there could be somebody there also whom he was sharing in confidence, and maybe that mosque could have been used for some purposes, which is extremely important. On the other hand, also from the other doctors, there has to be a rich minefield of information. The people around in the Al-Falah Institute who didn't report, who refused to, who just maintained silence and they stayed away. Was it because of fear? Was it because they remained, or they have seen? A lot of material is going to come out. By the way, the government has also cautioned the university for not using wrong, titles, and it has already come out in the papers. So I think a lot has to be looked into there also.
Indeed. India Today spoke to the administration at the university. General Meston, we are now being told the university claims they're getting no foreign funding, and they've said this on camera. They've said no foreign funds were received. They will cooperate entirely and completely with investigations, and they say whatever has happened, they claim universities had absolutely no role in it, not complicit. They were unaware. They will cooperate with investigations. But who are the doctors that this group was in touch with? I'm told there is a notebook, there is a diary, there are some papers recovered from room number 4, room number 13, and that other room, attached room outside the university, some 300 meters away, where the explosives were stored. That will give a lot of information. But if people had nothing to do with this, and they were in touch with these people, shouldn't those doctors come out on their own, volunteer information, join investigations, instead of reaching out to them, then arresting them, and then interrogating them? If they have nothing to do with it, then I think all those people must come out on their own, General Meston.
Yeah, absolutely, Gaurav. Firstly, Al-Falah University, if they claim they were not aware, I beg to differ, with their statements. Reason being, a security also has a security establishment, institution. They have a security establishment. Any entry, any exit from the university campus is noted by the security people. What were they doing? Explosives are going inside, weapons are going inside. That means the security people who are part of the Al-Falah University, they are being paid by them. They are accountable. And a lot of doctors are also accountable because they knew everything. And I think they have no choice. The Delhi police, Haryana police will get out all possible details. That is one. Secondly, the control has been from Turkey, Ankara, and this person, Osaka, I think Okasa,
Yes.
I think our people in agencies already, external agencies, they would be finding out who this person is. Obviously, it has to be a Jaish-e-Mohammed chap, and Turkey role is also possible. The third part is, Gaurav, I would also like to highlight this I-20 blast. Earlier, even I was thinking it's an accident or he was cornered. But now it is very clear why the crater was not made, because the bag was kept in the rear seat, which has been very evident. And therefore, because of the seat taking so much of blast, and I think that is why his limbs and legs, etc., would have been thrown forward because of the pressure of the blast. So that is the reason the crater has not been made. And next is, a very important lead is this person going to the masjid. He was there for 10 minutes. In Afghanistan, any suicide bomber who was tasked, he always used to be going to the masjid and then only doing. So he has gone to the masjid to be very firm that now so it was not an accident. Yes, he was cornered. He had no option, and therefore the last option was to do a suicide bombing, and this is what he has done. Earlier I was thinking, it is some remote control outside, someone wanted to kill him. So he was cornered. He had no choice. So masjid gave him motivation. And the fact of the matter is, then he stood outside, waiting in the parking area of the another masjid. That itself shows that he did not want to meet anyone, to change his mind. So his mind was very
first
firm.
it was the Turkman Gate Masjid, then the Sunehri Masjid, then that U-turn, and sadly, then the explosion. Mr. Azad, stay with me. General Meston, stay with me. This terror conspiracy has an address, and that address is room number 13, building number 17 at the Al-Falah University. So behind the doors of this room, inside the Al-Falah University, police believe this conspiracy to bomb Delhi was hatched. The plan was much bigger: target Delhi, multiple locations in Delhi, and simultaneously target multiple other cities. That was to be their signature act of terror, multi-city terror attack that would kill a large number of innocent Indians. This was more than just a meeting point. This was their mission room. This is where Dr. Muzammil Shakil of Pulwama and Dr. Umarun Nabi allegedly drafted this blueprint of the bombing that spanned states and had multiple elements and members from different parts of the country. For example, Dr. Shaheen actually comes from Uttar Pradesh, as does Dr. Ansari. So diaries have been recovered, digital drives have been recovered, some chemicals have been recovered, and that tells you a story of 2 years of planning. 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years of planning, years of indoctrination, and faith twisted into fury. From Pulwama to Delhi, from campus classrooms to the heart of the capital, the trail of terror began at that room number 13, room number 13.
Room number 13 in building number 17 in the Al-Falah University complex. It's the room where the alleged plot to make India bleed took shape. The room, which belonged to Dr. Muzammil Shakil Ganai of Pulwama, was the meeting point of the terror suspects. And it was here the police believe they conspired to execute the Delhi attack. Diaries, devices, pen drives, chemicals, digital data were recovered from the building, which are crucial to piecing together the interstate terror plot. Investigators have recovered diaries from Dr. Umar Nabi's room number 4 and Dr. Muzammil Ganai's room number 13. Sources say the diaries reveal that the planning was underway for 2 years. They show Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Umar and Adil Ahmed Rater are key conspirators. The diary also mentioned code words and dates November 8 and 12. The diaries contain names of around 25 people, mostly from Jammu and Kashmir and Faridabad. Amid the growing heat on the Faridabad University, a police team visited Al-Falah Okhla office.
जो दिल्ली पुलिस के साथ हरियाणा पुलिस की टीम पहुंची है, उसकी तस्वीरें हम आपको दिखा देते हैं। आप देख सकते हैं तस्वीरों में अभी भी पुलिस टीम मौजूद है। बता दें, जो अल फलाह यूनिवर्सिटी है उसका हेडक्वार्टर यही जामिया नगर दिल्ली के ओखला इलाके में है और जो कैंपस है वो फरीदाबाद में है।
कोई भी रूम नंबर 13 से रिलेटेड हमारे से उन्होंने कोई चीज नहीं मांगी। हमारे से उन्होंने कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स मांगे थे, जैसे लैंड के डॉक्यूमेंट्स मांगे थे और उन्होंने बिल्डिंग से रिलेटेड डॉक्यूमेंट मांगे थे। ये तमाम डॉक्यूमेंट्स उनको हमने प्रोवाइड करा दिए।
The Enforcement Directorate has also been roped in to help the probe. The central agency will look into financial irregularities of Al-Falah University and those who are allegedly part of the terrorist act. And amid all of this, Al-Falah administration has taken down the university's website. Vishriya Chatterjee, Milan Sharma and Ashutosh Kumar, Bureau Report, India Today.
And I want to quickly bring in India Today, my colleague and friend Sandeep Unnithan, who joins us with the latest on the investigation. Sandeep, you've been speaking to your sources, and this appears to be a much wider conspiracy to target India through multiple states and multiple modules. What have you been able to gather?
Well, Gaurav, very clearly it was not just one car, it wasn't one blast. What happened outside the Red Fort on the 10th of November was possibly a case of a terrorist losing his nerve and detonating the car bomb. But the larger plot, and this is where it gets really sinister, the larger plot appears to have been to detonate multiple car bombs, possibly either across India or definitely in the city of Delhi. And that is where it gets really worrisome, because as you know, Gaurav, a car bomb, a vehicle-borne IED as it's called, a VBIED, is the swiftest way to carry a large amount of explosives into crowded areas without arousing suspicion. Now, a sedan of the kind that the police have been recovering, a sedan can carry between 200 to 400 kgs of explosives. A truck, of course, can carry over a ton of explosives, but the sedan is the ideal vehicle to carry a large number of explosives into, towards landmarks, into near office buildings, populated areas, and that's the reason that they've been used for decades by terrorists to strike urban terror in the hearts of, fear in the hearts of people as vehicles for urban terrorism, and that appears to be the plan here. The Delhi bombers plan to inflict mayhem across the cities, and this is something that we haven't seen in a long time, Gaurav. It's been over a decade, probably 14 years since we last woke up to the, serial blasts across India. And this is a return of the Pakistan military's deep state activities across India. The use of cells, the use of VBIDs, all of these are a familiar playbook to us, Gaurav. We've been covering this for decades now, Pakistan-sponsored attacks. And these kind of attacks are certainly not the work of single idea, radicalized terrorist cells. These are part of a larger conspiracy. It's very clear. I'm sure the security agencies, they're already working on it to establish the links, the wider conspiracy.
This actually is a race against time for them because there are multiple cars that are still being searched. There are multiple individuals who are still unaccounted for. And Mr. Azad, which is what brings me to my next question. Now that the Enforcement Directorate has also been roped in, does this show the gravity and the magnitude of the action that's likely to follow once ED is roped in? It's not just the NIA, it's not just state police forces. The Enforcement Directorate in Jammu and Kashmir had ensured that stone pelting came to an end because they sucked out funds that was available to these elements.
Absolutely, and that's why I mentioned that after finding out the handlers, the next would be the source of funding. And we should look into all the aspects because this kind of a module, which was already ripe, it was ripe because all the collections and everything had been made and it was developing for the last 2 years. Obviously, a lot of money has already been spent in it. And I won't be surprised because the kind of the quantity which they have bought, the ammonium nitrate, in lakhs, obviously, that money has to come from somewhere. And we should look into the sources of whether it's the cryptocurrency. Why? Because you have talked about the handlers being from Turkey. That will be the safest route where nobody can even find that out. But, there are 2-3 more things which need to be done now. You need to catch the couriers, runners, sellers, dealers, and with that chemical signature, who exactly has also done it. And then after, as I'm glad Uni talked about that VBIED, which I was mentioning earlier, the cars, because you have mentioned 2 dates, November 8 and November 12. And what could be it's important to find out, was November 8 a failed attack? Was November 12 being planned as a particular area? Because this will give us a lot of information about how to proceed ahead. Because I'm sure, as Uni has said, that there were more cars being used and of the similar type which can blend into the background. The last point which I want to say, Gaurav, is now that you have shown the photograph, they have also, of course, taken down their website. Look at a place like this. You think with so much of frenetic activity, where everything was being collected from ammonium nitrate to the detonators, starters, timers, walkie-talkie sets, and people didn't know. I mean, I find it impossible. Indians being so nosy, they always like to know more about the others than their own home. And they will not get to know anything about this when there are so many people staying there. So the idea about the point which you mentioned earlier is correct. They should go to the hospital and say, we want voluntarily all the information to be given, because I'm sure there is a minefield of information which we can get from these centers, like whatever the University Al-Falah is called.
Oh, absolutely. Because General Meston, just join the dots. There was this Maulvi Irfan who was indoctrinating these doctors. I'm sure he was attempting to indoctrinate other doctors. That Maulvi is currently in custody. His interrogation. This lady doctor, Dr. Shaheen Shahid, she's in custody. Dr. Ansari, I'm told, is already talking to the Uttar Pradesh anti-terror squad. Dr. Adil, Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Tariq, I'm told, and there are several other doctors who've been called in for questioning. So by and large, there would be a fair picture, and we're putting out those names on your television screen, and these are people who've been taken into custody so far, except that Dr. Muhammad Umar, sadly escaped the net as it was closing in, and he carried out that attack. But Dr. Sajjad Malla, Dr. Ahmad Moinuddin Sayyed is in that Ryzen case. This would point to a very, very chilling fact where we would want to know who are the others who are still out there. How can they be nabbed before they carry out the next terror strike?
Yeah, absolutely, Gaurav. Large number of Maulvis, like Dr. Irfan and all, they have been very active to radicalize and indoctrinate the people. Now, mind you, the lead time is 2 years. Since last 2 years, they were doing this meticulous planning. So what does this indicate? This indicates that all over India, pan-India, I think many people and this network would have been radicalizing and recruiting more number of people, including, I would say, some women. This lady Shaheen, she would have also recruited more number of women. And therefore, with these 2 years, the local support garnered has been tremendous. And that is the reason that they have been able to procure this ammonium nitrate and these cars and the funding. So, you know, वो मैं बोलूँगा मतलब हिंदी में इनका वो पूरा मतलब ज़मीनी ये डट गए थे. They had everything. Local support was tremendous. Mind you, I think a good point emerged by Mr. Azad. This eco sport car, where was it parked? It was parked in a village in Faridabad.
No village.
Natural tendency for anyone is he parks his car close to his residence, oblique place of where he is located. In this case, the car has been parked in a village and maybe in fields, and these locals are oblivious about this car. They have been seeing this car over a period of time, moving day in and day night, and being parked here.
Unless this is silence of conspiracy and complicity, and that would be a cause for concern, Sandeep. If there are others who are complicit and still remain silent, the fact would also indicate this is a massive, massive failure of intelligence at multiple levels, Sandeep. And I want to draw in Dr. Azad into this, because if there's a conspiracy on for 2 years, it involves so many people across so many states, and yet no one got to know. It's very alarming, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And you know, we have to thank the Jammu and Kashmir police for the alacrity with which they cracked down on those posters the minute they saw them, and they started pulling the threads. And that is, this entire conspiracy was unrivaled thanks to that alert police officer there in Jammu and Kashmir. And that's where we've seen the larger conspiracy. And as you mentioned, Gaurav, such logistics, planning, putting people in place, gathering explosives, timers, detonators, weapons, stockpiling all of this. This takes a lot of time, effort. There's a lot of people moving. And this is something that should have triggered off alarm bells a long time ago. So, while the security forces have done an outstanding job, the intelligence agencies have done an outstanding job in cracking down on this module, exposing it, and of course, investigating the larger conspiracy, questions must be asked about why this was not done over the last couple of years that this plot had, begun to take shape, Gaurav.
Mr. Azad, you want to weigh in on this? Because we were told that moment an information is shared between 3 people, it's no longer a secret. Then it has to go out. Here, it's more than 30 people, it seems.
2 points, very, very critical, and Sandeep has raised that point, the second point. First is, of course, in that if this module is being developed and absolutely so well being executed as if, it's some party, and so nobody has noticed it. And that's why the point which you talk about is, I hope it's not complicity. Complicity in silence or complicity in staying away, both are exactly the same. But Sandeep's 2 points are very critical. Now, after the seizure, this man leaves in panic at 7 o'clock in the morning. And India Today, in fact, showed the whole map where he was going and where he was loitering around. So after the recovery, and when an alert has been issued, Dr. Umar travels 60 kilometers unchecked by any of the nakas and comes to Delhi. That's one point which should be looked into. And the other is that while he was loitering around for almost hours and he parks it in the Red Fort, if you had an artificial intelligence enabled smart control room, it should have detected it. In fact, it should have already detected it. So I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this, because in metros, you are not able to, just, stop traffic like this, because it creates a huge pileup. But you have to use these methods like the AI-enabled smart control systems to identify such ways to prevent
face
this.
detection software on AI-enabled cameras. That's a very pertinent point. China has it. In fact, there was a report that it takes just 7 minutes for China to be able to detect people, especially in metros. Here for several hours, this man. But my question, sir, if I may, was This plot, according to the diary, was on for 2 years. 2 years is long enough. It's a multi-state operation. You know, meeting Dr. Shaheen, traveling with Dr. Shaheen roping in Dr. Ansari, you know, bringing in others into this. There are multiple elements who are involved, including those who are still out there. IB should have known, local intelligence should have known, somebody from the university should have known.
Well, you know, in such interstate operations, I totally agree with you. You see, at least the electronic signature or the electronic stamp should have been found. But unfortunately, you know, many of these encrypted platforms are still, you know, cannot be cracked. And since they are in bits and bits, that is why the trend is to have these interstate modules, because they are split into small, small sections. And that is why they escape detection. But nevertheless, I agree. In fact, the contact with Turkey, you know, something should have alerted. And I agree with Sandeep that I wish it was detected a little earlier.
Indeed, gentlemen, many thanks for joining me, because we will continue to discuss and debate this as more information filters in.